Hey everyone, James Labrie from Dream Theater, and you're listening to or watching the podcast Talking into Infinity with JT and Brian. Enjoy this. These guys are extremely informative. I love their dialogue. I love their interpretation of the songs, who and what we are, what we were going after. They're very accurate in their interpretations and descriptions, and I just think this is a great show, and these guys are doing a stand-up stellar job. So once again, enjoy Talking into Infinity with JT and Brian.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Talking into Infinity, a Dream Theater podcast. I am your host, John. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, talkingintoinfinity.com, and the CMSnetwork.com. We are at those four fine locations every other Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch video replays of the show on our main hub, which is Heavy Metal Television, or you can check out our YouTube page. And if you are on our YouTube page, do not forget to click the like and subscribe buttons so that you get notified every single time that we go live. For example, Saturday, June 25th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You are not going to want to miss that very special episode. And if you would like to visit audio downloads of our podcast, just Google Talking into Infinity Podcast or go to anchor.fm. And we are on any number of platforms, and you can download any one of our 35 to 36 episodes. I always forget the number. So check it out. Without further ado, let me bring on my very good friend and co-host, Brian. What's going on, man?
What's going on, buddy? I am fresh off, if you'd like to hear about it. 2 days ago was Symphony X at the Cleveland Agora.
Oh, no, I wouldn't. But so what else is going on?
Go ahead,
You set yourself up. So, yeah. All right. So, yeah. So before we get into tonight's topic, which is a really interesting concept that you came up with. So you went to Symphony X at, the Cleveland Agora. So what happened at Symphony X? Who was the opener, first of all?
First band was called Trope, and no offense, I have no idea what they sounded like. I did not make it there. A little bit too early for me to get down. Knowing it's going to be a late night, so I did want to make it for Haken, which was a second band, and I believe that was Portnoy's backup band when he played on one of those Cruise
to the Edge, I think. Yeah,
Cruise to the Edge. Yeah, I mean, you talk about, oh my God, it's kind of a combo of Devin Townsend meets Yes, meets Rush with some like Periphery DT thrown in. Little bit of Primus, but like not the super annoying aspects, more the fun, aspects, I guess.
Right.
And I mean, great show. I mean, I did, full disclosure, I knew nothing about the band going in. I went on, saw, hey, what's their set list? What are they going to play? I downloaded their whole set list a couple days ahead of time, dug all the songs. I mean, just a super tight, great band. 2 guitars, singer. Just awesome musically. And then Symphony X came on, and if there is a singer out there in rock and metal that sounds as good and clean, as powerful as Russell Allen does live right now, I'd love to know who it is. I mean, he absolutely, dude, you would have loved it, man.
Really?
I mean, he was just dead on point. I mean, just belting it all out there. And I was telling, I went with Bob, a coworker of mine, Bob Hurd, shout out if he's listening. And we kind of came up with the idea that maybe the pandemic, maybe helped a guy like that, that they tour a lot, maybe, and they tour all over the world too. So maybe a year or two off, rejuvenated him. Not that I've ever heard him sound bad, but I mean, he just sounded like a guy who was just reborn to do this. And
right.
It was an hour and a half nonstop. And they ended with the Odyssey, which I know you weren't like a huge fan of on the album. You thought it was okay, but live, I mean, really, really cool. Like it was
I was gonna say live, that has to be.
Yeah,
it has to be awesome.
And unless I really was missing something, they really didn't do a ton of like extra backing tracks or anything with that. It was pretty much all played live. I think it was missing a little bit of the orchestration that you hear, but I still thought it came off awesome, man. I mean, Russell Allen but it was, the only annoying thing was your typical, how as you get to a show and you're all hyped up and like the first song, you're like, okay, what are they doing with the sounds? Like, why does it take 3 songs to get the sound right. I mean, that they got there for a sound check. I'm not blaming the band, but it's like, the first song they start out with Nevermore, obviously, which everyone knew they were going to start with. Sound, and you're like, okay, like he sounds great singing, but the guitar's not cutting through. It's like, okay, Michael Romeo's guitar should be punching you like through your guts. You know what I mean? It should be coming up
Right.
back of you, like the way you mix that guitar, because that's what makes that whole band.
Yeah.
So it took like 3 songs to get the mix going.
So our buddy Jean-Philippe Lavoie says, I saw Haken and Symphony X in Quebec City last Friday. Was a blast. So another positive review. And from what you told me, you also ran into our good buddy Robert Reams, and he's checking in. Good to see you, man. He says, such a great show. Russell Allen was incredible. So
yeah, it was a weird thing. So I think I told you I was trying to find balcony seats. Well, here's the thing. They didn't open the balcony at all.
wow.
I thought what I ended up having was balcony seats because it said a seat number and it showed it kind of in the middle. And it said like premier seating, and I was like, oh, well, I'll just assume this is whatever, something opened up, or it was a little more expensive, but no big deal. And then they're like, oh no, it's down by the soundboard, and I'm like, and Bob and I are like, I bet it's those like stools they put like right in front of the railing by the soundboard. So you're literally like, I don't know, 25 feet from the stage. I mean, is there a better place to view? You could set your drink there, and Robert was standing there, and the people that had the seats by us, it was really weird. Like maybe they were just big Haken fans, because like the second song, they were gone. He kept standing there, and I'm like, dude, they're not coming back. So he got to sit there. And oh, by the way, you owe me $20 for that seat, even though I didn't pay for that one. Nice. The whole concept of it's $20 extra to sit in one of those stools right there. There's like 15 of them around the whole. Like, just put those damn things all on those railings. You know what I mean? Like, don't make people stand up there. So I don't know. Anyway, great show, and I can't wait to see him again. And just an awesome performance and a great venue, and fun night of music, man. I hadn't got to go out to a show for a while.
That's killer. Yeah, I feel bad that I wasn't able to go. I was supposed to have a work event, and then I ended up not having to go after I had it was already Tuesday. And so I couldn't hit you back and be like, oh, I'm going to go now. And then Aiken asked me to do an episode of Chris Aiken Presents, so I ended up podcasting that night. I was like, son of a bitch, I could have been at a concert. I love podcasting with Aiken, don't get me wrong, but
nice.
Going to see a live show with you would have been even better, I think. So speaking of Aiken, you also recently appeared on an episode of Chris Aiken Presents. Why don't you tell everybody what that's about, since it's more content that they can get from us?
Well, I don't know. It was supposed to be sort of a battle between Operation Mindcrime and Wasp the Crimson Idol, and it sort of went off in a bunch of different tangents. So I went back and rewatched to give you a little bit of shout out on Chris Aiken Presents with John Drake. You guys did, was it Injustice for All versus Rust in Peace?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which that's a little more evenly balanced and fair. Those are two kind of like
a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I really did. I kind of forgot how much I did actually enjoy Crimson Idol, but so we sort of ended up deciding, well, we can't really compare them track by track, but we did a pretty decent deep dive, and Chris gave me some good insight on Blackie and stuff I didn't know about. And then I did my usual at the end. I started going off on a tangent about Lord knows what. So it's our show, right?
Yeah, well,
but go check it out. It's on the CMS network here. It's Chris Aiken Presents. It's Crimson Idol. I don't even know what it's called. Crimson Idol versus Mindcrime or something.
Sure. Yeah, I actually started listening to it, and it sounds great, man. I haven't gotten all the way through yet, but my wife was on an episode the other day, so I've been immersed in Chris Aiken Presents for the last couple days, along with preparation for tonight's episode, which was really difficult for me to find a show description for. I had several people like, what the hell are you talking about this week? And I was like, you know what? I really don't know how to describe this. So I'm going to let you describe it, because this was an idea that you came up with like about 2 months ago. And I think it's a really cool idea. And since, right now we're a little bit light on Dream Theater news until we get into James's new record, which comes out tomorrow as we're recording this on Thursday night. And we're gonna dig into that really deeply. That's gonna be a really cool event that you guys are not gonna want to miss. And we can tell you that we have had the record for a bit, because we did interview Paul, so we got a promotional copy from the label, and it is fantastic. It is a great listen. So you guys will really, really enjoy that. But back to the topic, you had a very interesting idea for a show, so why don't you explain what we're doing tonight?
Okay, what are we doing tonight, John? No, I'm trying to think how did
I
explain
set
it
you
to
up and you fail miserably.
Oh, of course, you knew I was going to. No, so it was something along the lines of, okay, it's 1989, and Dream and Day Unite does not exist, or we don't have money to buy that, or we can't buy it because it's not in stock, or it's not on the
It's
shelf.
banned.
Right?
Your
It's
original
banned.
topic was it's banned, so you can't get it anywhere.
Okay, it's banned, so you can't get it anywhere. So basically, what album or albums are you going to go get instead?
Yeah.
So, and rather of just being like just one, because that would be a pretty short episode, we decided on we originally said 10, then we cut it down to 8.
Yeah.
I think is what we ended up with. So we got 8, which is kind of weird because our last episode when we were talking about Minecraft, that's 1988, so we're only a year later here.
Yeah.
And we actually do end up with, I think, one band that had an album in both years. So I'm sure you probably have that on your list. So we have a top 8. I guess I ranked mine. I don't know. Looking at them, I kind of had them ranked. You said yours are ranked chronologically?
Yeah. Yeah. I found the release dates. And so I went through pretty much anything that was released in 1989, and I was like, okay, if I went to the record store looking for When Dream and Day Unite and was told that record is unavailable, it's banned, you can't get it anywhere, just forget it, you got to buy something else, I was like, which of these records would I buy? And I wrote down all the ones that I'd be into, and then I whittled off ones where I only knew a couple songs, and other ones I was like, yeah, maybe not. So I got it down to a solid 8. And there's really only one record that I'm not overly familiar with on my list, but I'm familiar with the band and I love the band. So it would kind of be one of those, oh, that band? Yeah, I don't really know much, but I know it's going to be good, so I'm going to buy that. So I have that one, but the rest of them I'm really familiar with. And it was fun for me because I was like, oh, that one, no shit. Like, so I got to go back and listen to some stuff that I haven't listened to in quite a while, which was, at Joe Gebhardt, man. I was just about to use this word. It says, Joe Gebhardt, this will be fun. Yeah, it was cool to go back and listen to some of this stuff and go, man, like, I forgot how good this record is. And the reason I think this is a cool idea is because we can do this for every year that Dream Theater has a record. Now, granted, getting into some more modern stuff, I don't know how the hell we're going to find 8 albums that we're going to, it's like we're going to be scraping bottom of the barrel for it. But,
Yeah. Well, rather than do them chronologically, why don't you do them like by release date? So like the first one and then like, the earliest one that year. Yeah.
So, yeah, like I said, I just have it. Mine aren't ranked. So Kale asks, is this albums that were released in 89 or up to 89? No, Kale, they have to be released in 1989. So when Dream and Day Unite,
89 total albums.
Yeah, we could have 89 records.
Wait, hold on, time out. I don't want to cut you off, but Kale sent us a very specific message that he had gotten a job. Aren't you supposed to be at work, young man?
Brian's going all parent on him.
Yeah, I got that.
No, I got it.
He said he started a new job today. So did you already quit, Kale?
He didn't feel like going. He'd rather check out a Dream Theater podcast than go to his new job. Kale's being responsible. So, all right. So, do you want me to go first, or would you like to go first?
No, you go ahead, man.
All right. So, I pulled up album covers for mine. So, my first choice, this was released on January 24th of 1989. I chose the self-titled Skid Row record.
Nice.
So, yeah, this was a record that when it came out, I got it as a gift from my older brother. It was a Christmas present. He had gotten me a gift certificate to the local record store, and we were hanging out. He's like, "You want to go use that gift certificate?" I was like, "Yeah." And I had heard the singles, of course, at least whatever singles were out at that time, and I was like, "I got to get that." So I went out and I grabbed, the first Skid Row record, and I loved it, man. I mean, to this day, I'm not the biggest Skid Row fan, but this is definitely their most solid album. Slave to the Grind is heavier, and there's some really cool moments on that record for that reason. But that one just kind of seemed like, here's some heavy riffs, and hey, Sebastian Bach can scream real high, so let's just do that the whole time.
Yeah.
And throw in a couple of ballads. But, this first Skid Row record, man, it's a total riff fest. It's almost like a heavier version of Rat in spots, but it's definitely more rock than hair metal, I think. And it was just a cool record, man. It was fun. It was just an easy listen, and I dug it. And I hadn't gone back to this in a long time, and I forgot how solid this album really is. I mean, the singles are obvious, so I kind of skipped over those because who needs to hear 18 in Life again? But the other songs, there's some kick-ass riffs on this, man. So I thought this was a solid record.
All right, so full disclosure, when we go forward, tell me what format you bought it on. Was this on cassette or CD, or do you remember?
Everything back then was cassette.
Cassette.
I mean,
okay.
yeah, when CDs had come out. I forget when CDs came out, but I didn't get into CDs right away because I was so used to buying cassettes. So it took me a couple years to actually get into, that format.
Yeah, no, a great album. I mean, the first time I ever heard Youth Gone Wild, I was like, what in the hell is that?
Yeah. Yep.
This was one of those where I didn't buy this one, but the old tape trading, and all right, well, my buddy bought it, so I'll go record it off of him, and damn near wore the thing out,
Yep.
And I mean, Can't Stand the Heartache, Rattlesnake Shake, I mean, all that stuff, Piece of Me. I mean, it just super heavy and great riffs and those huge, massive anthemic choruses, and just pile on tons of delay and reverb and
right.
just soaring, and I was lucky enough to see them open for Bon Jovi, and they damn near, tore him off the stage.
Yeah, for sure.
They sounded amazing.
Very cool. Yeah, I think you're going to know probably a lot more about the records I picked than I will about yours potentially, but we're going to find out pretty much right now. So let's get into your first choice. What is your first record on your list?
I've got Tesla, The Great Radio Controversy.
I was wondering if you were going to have that one. Okay.
Yeah, second Tesla album, had it on CD. Absolutely love the first two Tesla albums. The guitars on this just fly right off of the. Well, I had the CD, so fly right off the CD. I guess the riffs. I don't know. I mean, they had really solid production on the first one. I think it was like those guys that did Appetite were us on Mechanical Resonance, and I'm not totally positive who produced this, but man, just super clean, massive guitars. And Frank Hannon and Tommy Skiak, I think, just very underrated as far as like being able to just do those cool little riffs and tricks and things. They're just, when you find yourself those kind of songs we've talked about before, when you're humming the guitar parts, and not just the main riff, but like, oh, it's going to do this here, whatever. I can't think of an example right now, of course. But like, I mean, you start out with Hang Tough, Lady Luck, Heaven's Trail, that grinding blueser, Did It for the Money, Making Magic. I mean, Jeff Keith sounds amazing on this too. Like, love song, classic 80s ballad, I guess.
Yeah.
But I put that at number 8. Probably, it's tough to say if I like this more than Mechanical Resonance. It'd be like 1A and 1B, I guess. I mean, a lot of people consider Psychotic Supper kind of their maybe more sophisticated, heavier album, more mature, I guess is the word for it, with Edison's Medicine and stuff like that on it.
Okay.
I don't think the songs can touch Great Radio Controversy. Like, just great songs on there.
Yeah. I thought about that when I thought about listening to it, but I'm not overly familiar with Tesla. It's a band that never really grabbed me. Maybe it's because I only really know the hits. I mean, my favorite song of theirs is a cover. It's like, I love Signs. So, but yeah, I thought about this one because I'm like, okay, if I went back and listened to this, what if it's better than some of the stuff that I was listening to back then? And I went and listened to the records I picked, and I was like, damn, no, I like these. I don't know if anything's going to supplant it with like one day of research being done.
Yeah.
So,
well, at some point,
right.
you got to check out that Tesla and let me know what you think. I'm just curious.
Yeah, email me when we're done. Email me your list because I'm jumping on a plane on Monday morning to head out to L.A. Sunset Strip. So
Nice.
I'll have plenty of time to listen to some stuff I've never heard before. That'll be good plane listening. So, all right, getting on to my number 2. This one was released on January 30th of 1989. This is Exodus, Fabulous Disaster. So this is the one where I wasn't really familiar with it, but I've seen Exodus live a couple times, and I'm like, these guys are fucking awesome. So I figured I would love it, and sure enough, I loved it. And it's got Toxic Waltz on it, so I mean that in itself is just a kick-ass tune. But it's one of those things that, when you buy an Exodus record, you know what you're going to get. And I am one of those people that just enjoys that. I'm not the biggest fan of bands I like making a hard left turn at any point. It's like, man, it's cool. I get it. You want to be an artist, but we've used the example a couple times on the show going, Queensryche, from something like Empire to something like Here in the Now Frontiers. Like, what the hell are you doing? So, I saw this on the list and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I think I'm going with Exodus. And I put this one in and listened to it a couple times. I'm like, damn, this is great. Like, it's just so damn good. That late 80s just speed metal. And like, fuck yeah, dude, good pick. So I don't know if you're familiar with this one or not, but
oh yeah, man, I love this album. I had it on my runners up, or did we decide is it runners up or runner ups?
Yeah, is it runner ups or runners up? We couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, man, the one song I love on there is that Cajun Hell. Cajun
Hell.
Yeah. It's kind of based off. There's a movie from I think it's 1981 where it's a bunch of like state troopers get like somehow like trapped like in the South in the bayou or whatever, and they're like totally in the backwoods, and like these people are basically like hunting them, like these badass people in there. I'll probably find the name of the movie later by the end of the show, but that's kind of where it's lyrically taken from. But I love the two covers on here. There's the AC/DC Overdose. The way that starts a down, and then like Low Rider. How can you make a song like Low Rider sound cool? That's like the stupidest song ever.
Well, it comes in like, ow, my prince. Like, it's like, hell no, dude.
Those guitar harmonies, and they're like trilling each other, ding, 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 ding. And sometimes there's even like three of them going, and those little harmonies and melodies going there, and they get the the little squawks and harmonics and shit. It's so cool, man. I mean, it's exactly like you're saying. You know what you're going to get from this band, especially when they do a cover. They're going to completely Exodus it up with those guitars.
Yeah. I just think Exodus is so underrated. Like, I don't listen to them a ton, so it's hard for me to say that with any true conviction. But I just know that everything I've heard I liked. Every time I've seen them live, they're just absolutely killer. So, they just, man, they're so good.
Yeah, I saw the tour before this. This is probably my second favorite Exodus. My favorite is the Pleasures of the Flesh. I got to see them live on that tour with Armored Saint. Man, they just destroyed. Like, they were so good.
So our buddy Kale McLeish brings up a few of his choices. He says, okay, Dr. Feelgood, Motley Crue, Trash, Alice Cooper, Real Thing, Faith No More, Pump, Aerosmith, A Show of Hands, and Presto by Rush.
Yeah, I didn't know Presto was in '89. Because it was weird because I was like sitting there going, how come I can't find any Rush albums? I guess I didn't look hard enough.
I wondered if you were going to have that on there or not on your list, because if I remember right, isn't that like during their run of kind of albums that are considered kind of crappy, like the synthesizer records or whatever?
Well, this is actually the first one they go back to minimal stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, this is like the first one coming out of that, but a lot of people do not like this album.
Okay.
I think it's actually a really cool album. And it probably should be in my top 8 now that I realize it's in here. But yeah, Kale, great album, man.
All right, so what is next on your list? And you actually ranked them like bottom to top?
Yeah, I mean it's it's like I did, but looking back, so I've got White Lion, Big Game.
Okay, all right, I considered that one.
It's hilarious because I literally was texting Aiken about this last Saturday, and we're just kind of touching base about doing the show or whatever. And I said, "Hey, man, just a question about White Lion." And I remember the first time I saw the video for Little Fighter, I thought it was the greatest like melodic rock tune I'd ever heard. Oh man, Vito Brada's playing so good on that. And so when I got the album, and at the time I was not a massive fan of the album. I thought it was kind of okay, but it's really kind of grown on me. It's like the songs are sort of like almost like folkier than you realize. You know what I mean? Like it's definitely doesn't have the flavor of Pride, and it's a different flavor than the main attraction for sure. But man, I don't know. There's just something about you feel like you could sit down with a lot of these songs and just grab an acoustic guitar and probably jam away on them, and I sort of didn't pick up on that feel originally just because, you see White Line, you're thinking, big hair and Mike Tramp and his spandex and stuff,
Yeah.
but just some solid songwriting, I think, and Vito, he's the epitome of what I was saying with you literally hum every guitar note he plays. Like him and Eddie Van Halen, I think are only two that I've ever known where it's like, okay, he's constantly playing a note, but it's constantly fits and I don't care, it's like, it's just the melody's so good. So yeah, I put White Lion Big Game in there.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm much more familiar with Pride, which is great out, especially like you said, if you love guitar, man, Vito Bratta, holy God. I can't believe that guy just up and quit. Can you imagine being that good and just quitting? That is staggering to me. But yeah, I mean that one I considered, but I'm not as familiar with it as I am, as I said, with Pride. And honestly, White Line, like I enjoy them, and every once in a while I'll put on a song and go, oh yeah, and I'll listen to a bunch of it, but it's not something I like reach for. So I didn't put it on my list for that reason. It's cool, but not something I'm in the record store against the other stuff on my list, which I think there's going to be two surprising selections. I think the rest pretty much tells you what kind of music I was into back then and still am. But yeah, it almost made my list. I think that would have been one of my runner-ups or runners-up, depending on what we're calling it. So, all right, coming in at number 3 on my list. This one was released on February 7th of 1989. So if I walked into a record store and I could not buy When Dream and Day Unite and had to buy something else, I would choose Blessing in Disguise by Metal Church. I think this is a kick-ass record. It's one of my 2 favorite Metal Church albums. The first one, this is probably a common selection for a lot of people, but Human Factor is my favorite. This Metal Church record, I just think doesn't get enough love. I think there's a couple of the Titanic song, Rest in Pieces, it's weird, but it's a really cool tune. Badlands is one of my favorite metal songs ever. It's got just a massive chorus to it. Opening the record with Fake Healer. I think this record is like side 1 heavy because I think the songs on the second side aren't as strong, but the first 4 or 5 tunes are so goddamn good that it's like it just carries the whole album. So I had this. God, I think I didn't get this one till like the mid 90s when I started really kind of researching bands I was into and other bands that sounded like them or influenced them. And that's how I found Metal Church. And I was like, what the hell? This is great. So, yeah, this is just a really cool listen for me. And this was one of the ones when I went back and listened to it, I was like, damn, I forgot how great this is. So, yeah, Metal Church, Blessing in Disguise, anchored by about, there's 3 songs on here that I absolutely love, and the rest of it's pretty solid.
Well, full disclosure, they lost me after The Dark. I love the first 2 Metal Church albums. Now, is this still David Wayne or no?
No, this is Mike Howe. I think it might be the first one with Mike Howe. See, I love his voice. I absolutely love Mike Howe's voice.
I don't know that I minded his voice. I just thought their sound I don't know. This is one, since you're going to listen to someone, I will go back and listen to this again because I'm curious what I think of it now. But I remember at the time, I was just like, man, they just, I don't know, whatever they had, those guitar stuff that like Vander Hoof had going on, like just from the first 2 albums, I didn't hear it on this. So I don't know. I'll go back and check this one out again.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean the early Metal Church stuff didn't really grab me as much as the Mike Howe stuff. It might have been the voice, like David Howe has got a great voice and whatnot, or David
Wayne.
Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, David Wayne, like he's got a cool voice and everything, but I'm just so partial to Mike Howe. He's one of my favorite singers in metal, and I think this guy never got nearly enough credit for how awesome he was, and he was in the band recently and still sounded kick ass. I mean, they sounded great.
Did both these guys pass away?
Yeah, Mike Howe committed suicide last year.
And I think Wayne died a while back, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. Yeah. Maybe it's not a good idea to be the singer in Metal Church.
Yeah. No, I mean, I will say one thing about David Wayne's voice. I mean, that's probably a love it or hate it. There's not going to be much of middle ground. I mean, that's a real high, massive shriek, especially turn from the first album to the dark, where it was like up in the stratosphere.
Yeah.
There's even a
Yeah.
couple on there where I'm like, all right, man, let's tone it down just a tad. Which I think is
Sure.
probably what they were just sort of sick of, like hearing that style, like, which I get, but I don't know, they just kind of lost me. But I will check this out though.
Yeah, like I say, I think the second half after Badlands gets kind of. I mean, it's good, but I mean the front half through Badlands is just kick ass. So I'd say that's definitely the strong point of the album. All right, so what is next on your list of albums that you would buy in 1989 if you were not permitted to buy When Dream and Day Unite?
Well, a funny thing about this album is nobody knew a damn thing about it when it came out, and this is one you will not go listen to whatsoever, I'm sure. 9 Inch Nails' Pretty Hate Machine.
Oh, right. Time to boot you from the show for a good 3 minutes.
Yeah, go ahead and mute me.
Oh, I cannot stand.
Yeah, I mean, the
9 Inch
video
Nails.
and everything from this didn't even get popular till almost 2 years later. Because this was after I moved to Cleveland. I didn't get to Cleveland until 91. So I don't know if they like totally re-released this, or once he got on Lollapalooza, it started taking off. I don't know the exact history behind all this, but he couldn't get arrested back in '89 when this first came out. I mean, I'm serious. Like it took like two years for this album to mean anything. But yeah, I know you hate this album and are not a Trent fan, but I think this is one of the most important like albums and set the tone for Trent and just what he's become now, which is like just an amazing composer, does soundtrack stuff. And I mean, he's working with like, I mean, people that are like in the top 40 stuff now. They're just, hey, Trent, can you come produce and make an album?
Yeah.
Still does, I just think he's a musical genius, and I love this album.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that like I'm not a fan of the music. I'm not a fan of him, whatever. But I have the utmost respect for him because of the talent that's there. It's just not something that I'm into at all. I do not like super electronic, digital sounding stuff. It's just not my cup of tea at all. I discovered music because of Van Halen and that raw, just natural dudes just smashing away on 4 or 5 instruments and just going for it live. That has never really left me. So the Trent Reznor style and everything and all that kind of stuff, the industrial sound is like just not for me. So yeah, that I saw that on the list. I was like, well, and I honestly, I thought the same thing that you did. I was like, that came out in '89. Like I remember that like when I was in high school, I thought, but
yeah, I think
sorry.
it came out again or something, or was, when they got on that Lollapalooza is when it really took off. Go ahead.
Okay, no, sorry. Joe Gebhardt says, haven't heard it, but Mother's Milk by Red Hot Chili Peppers came out in 1989 as well. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff on here that were like bands that I know very well, or at least I'm familiar with. And like it seems like these really underground records that were out before they broke came out this year. So that was kind of interesting. I think Green Day had like a record, like 1,000 something or others. I forget what it's called. Like Green Day had a record that was pretty much right before Dookie. And there was a couple instances of that when I went through a list of what was released this year. So, I mean, do you still get into 9 Inch Nails, or is it just this one record? Or
yeah, I still like to try to go see him almost every chance I get. I'm not going to go to I can't remember if they've already had or if it's coming up a show here that I think it was at Blossom. I decided to pass on, but I mean, just live what he does visually. No one puts the time and effort into a visual show and technology the way Trent does. I mean, to the point where I don't even think he probably makes money on it. There's so much expense that goes into, the way the show's put on and everything. But yeah, I still love pretty much everything he does.
Okay. Be Cool or Be Podcast Out. Good to see you, man. He says King's X, Gretchen Goes to Nebraska. So we'll wait to see Be Cool, but I actually, when I saw that one, I thought that might be one that Hendrickson has on his list. So we will have to see if he's got that on there. Moving on to my number 4. This one was released on April 7th of 1989. And if I walked into a record store and was not permitted to buy When Dream and Day Unite, I would buy Beneath the Remains by Sepultura. You cannot go wrong with early Sepultura up through Chaos AD, especially, the thrashier stuff. I mean, Arise is just damn near a perfect thrash record, I think. And this is again a record that when I went back and listened to it, I was like, damn, dude, I forgot about this. I mean, they were playing so fast. And the way that Max writes his riffs, it's almost like he's, either the way he's writing the riffs or the way that Igor's playing the drums, like it's almost like, the snares on the upbeat instead of the downbeat. They have a really unique sound in terms of like the speed and like where the hits are coming from. And man, it was the one thing I forgot and I laughed when it happened was, the album opens with the first track and it's kind of like Fight Fire with Fire by Metallica, where you've got this nice little intro and then it comes into this heavy thing. Well, I had forgotten that the Sepultura thing is real pretty acoustic stuff. And then it stops for a second. Like it is. I'm like, this has nothing to do with anything Sepultura. Why are you doing this? But I went through it, and Inner Self is one of my favorite Sepultura songs, and that's on here. And I mean, this is just it is a punch to the nuts all the way through. So, like I say, I really like the early Sepultura stuff. Which is kind of odd to say because I really don't get into screamer bands. I have to have melody. Really, the only screaming band that I absolutely love is Pantera. I do like a lot of Slayer, and Sepultura is another one. I love a lot of the Sepultura stuff. Again, specifically Arise and obviously KSAD. I mean, I think everybody loves that record. But, Beneath the Remains is just a thrash fest, man. And god damn, they were playing fast. And I think I kind of enjoy this record more now because I read Max's autobiography, and knowing where he came from and the fact they were basically just like street kids that were absolutely penniless, and yet they're writing this kind of music with this kind of like aggression and ability was just a really cool story. So did you ever get into this kind of stuff?
I had roots. Familiar with a little bit of Chaos. I knew nothing at all about this album when it came out, and I still know nothing about it other than you saying that it's awesome. So I'll take your word for it. I'm assuming it's so was this their first major label then, basically, or
if I remember right, this was their second record. I believe that the first one was Schizophrenia. I'm trying to remember let me look it up while we're talking here real quick. I'm almost now. Morbid Visions was the first one in '86. Schizophrenia was '87, and Beneath the Remains was '89. So this is technically their third album.
Did you ever see them live? I have not.
I have not, dude. There's a ton of bands that I'm really into that I never got a chance to see live, and it really burns my ass because back then, I mean, this is the kind of stuff I would have gone to see. I mean, like Chaos AD was 92 and Roots was 94, and I think Roots is one of the most overrated metal records ever. Everyone just like bows at the altar of that album, and I'm just not. I don't get it because to me it was. I mean, coming off of Chaos AD, like they simplified their sound a little bit, but it was still just brutal and cool. Like, and Roots was just too much. Hey, we're Brazilian. Here's a bunch of Brazilian shit. And I'm like, okay, like that's fine and all, but I didn't dig it.
Wow, John's anti-Brazilian. Who would have known?
Shut up, man. But yeah, no, I didn't get to see him. My dad wouldn't let me go see concerts until I turned 18. And then at that point, like, when I did turn 18, I was the only one in my group of friends after high school that listened to stuff this heavy. So I never had anybody to go with, and I wasn't at the point where I am now where I'm like, I don't give a shit if I'm going alone. I'm going to this damn show. The only show I did with back then was the first concert I ever went to, which was Megadeth in '95 on the Euthanasia tour. No one would go. I was like, screw this. I'm not missing Megadeth. So, I have not seen Sepultura. Well, actually, no. I take that back. I've seen Sepultura once, but it was they were main support for Testament a couple of years ago.
Okay.
It was like when the Agora had first opened. So I have seen it, but it's with Derek Green and the different drummer and stuff. And so. All right, so what do you have next on your list?
So my number, what is this? Number 5 for me on in reverse, I guess. I've got self-titled from Badlands.
Okay. All right.
Ray Gillen, man, just a really, really underrated guy that was gone way too early. Like, I mean, that guy had a hell of a lot more stuff left to do musically, I think.
Yeah.
And if I think I brought this up before, I don't even know how the topic came up, but there are demos floating around on YouTube of him singing on Sabbath "Eternal Idol," which is the first Tony Martin Sabbath album.
Yep.
You can see I actually have Sabbath Headless Cross behind me. That did not make my list. That was one of my runners-ups, I guess you could say. But yeah, it starts out with High Wire. I mean, Winter's Call is a beautiful, like the way that starts out mellow and then just goes totally heavy. Streets Cry Freedom. That's like an anthemic rocker. Devil Stomp was cool too. Like, yeah, it'd been forever since I listened to that album, man. Yeah, I think they did. I can't remember if they did 2 or 3. The one after it, I wasn't a huge fan of, but the original first one with, of course, Jakey Lee on guitar, which
that's right. Yeah.
I think probably, other than Ultimate Sin, I think it's just the second best thing that Jakey Lee ever did was his first Badlands album.
No, I've heard that, man. It's funny that I've never listened to them because a couple of my buddies absolutely swear by Badlands. And I've never gone and tried to listen to it. They only have what, like 2 records or something like that? They have a small discography, don't they?
I think they did 2, and then they did something later. It's one of those weird bands where if you go on to Spotify, you can't find. I don't think you can find the first album. Same with these. Since we're on topic, these Sabbath Tony Martin ones, they're not on Spotify. I don't know if they're on Apple or Amazon or all this and that, but yeah, definitely okay. You got to check out the first Badlands album. You'd dig it, man.
Okay, yeah, like I say, it's funny. My buddy Mikey loves this band, and Aiken swears by Badlands, and I've never bothered to check it out. So again, this is what's going to be cool. Like when you email me your list from your new work laptop, since you destroyed your other one, I'll have some cool stuff to listen to and be like, damn, how did I miss this? So moving on to the next one on my list, this is number 5, and I think this one is actually going to surprise you a little bit, and it might surprise a lot of people. It actually kind of surprised me, but I do remember that I really got into this record. I had about a 6 to 8 month period my senior year of high school in '94 where I was super into this band, and this is not a popular record of theirs, I would say, but something about it I really got into. I have Nirvana Bleach, and it doesn't sound great. Chad Channing is not a great drummer, but there's something about how raw it was, and I went back and listened to it for the purposes of this show, and I was like, man, like, okay, I could see why I would get into it, and I did enjoy some songs on it. It was an interesting listen when I wasn't, if I'm tired of listening to thrash and all the heavy stuff I'm listening to, like this was interesting. And I remember that one of the reasons I got into Nirvana, the little tiny period of time that I did, was because that's when I really started getting a little bit more proficient on drums, guitar, and bass. And I thought, well, if these idiots can make it, I can. Like, I can play all of this. Like, so, and it's always fascinated me that these guys ever made it and why people think that they're just revolutionary. I'm like, it's not great. I just think that people hate hair metal so goddamn much that this comes along and they're like, yeah, Nirvana is like going to save us. Like, holy crud. Yeah, Adam Rishog says it. He says, wow, John didn't peg you for a Nirvana listener. Adam, I was really, really into them for, like I say, for a good 6 to 8 months. I mean, this is going to really be surprising, but Incesticide is my favorite Nirvana record. Which is just a bunch of B-sides and stuff, but for some reason I really like it. Yeah, but there is something in this record that is so damn honest and raw and just something interesting about it. Again, I am shocked that someone listened to this band and went, yeah, this is the next big thing. Because you listen to Chad Channing's drumming and it's not tight, and it's got these, like, just dumb, like, I just started playing drums 3 weeks ago, fills, and man, it's not great, but I did enjoy this record. And when I went back and listened to it again, for this show, I was like, all right, yeah, this, if I'm listening to Nirvana, I'd listen to this in Incesticide. I mean, obviously, Nevermind is a classic, and In Utero is a classic and whatnot, but I something about how ungodly raw and just honest this record is kind of cool to me. I mean, did you ever give a shit about Nirvana at all?
So Grohl was not on this, huh?
No, this was the only one without him. They replaced Chad
Okay.
Channing after this record.
Okay. So I just looked it up now because I obviously just to see if I'd ever even heard any songs. So the only songs I heard on here, obviously they played them later, was About a Girl and Negative.
Yeah.
Yeah. So otherwise I don't know anything about, this album, obviously. Yeah, I mean, I thought In Utero had some cool stuff on it. The whole, like you said, did people hate hair metal? It's just, everything new is old again and everything old is new again or whatever. It was just like,
yeah,
let's just strip it back down. Same thing that was done in the, 70s or whatever. They got tired of the Motown stuff or whatever, so it turned into this other, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's always just constantly kind of, hopefully it's always going to come back to, just some really killer guitar stuff,
yeah,
or really killer Hammond organ or piano or Elton John stuff. You know what I mean? Like, hopefully no matter what happens. But I was thinking this the other day, not to get like, I don't know, super deep or anything, but like, I mean, we're so like wrapped up in this, but it's like, just think about like, okay, like when Mozart was around, like there's never going to be anything this cool. You know what I mean? Like when Bach was around, there's never going to be anything, Beethoven. Yeah. This is such a small microcosm of like, in the grand scheme of things, like what the hell's it going to sound like in 200 years? You know what I mean? Like, is there even going to be electric guitar? You know what I mean? It's like, not to get all philosophical, but like, just going on face value and the way things are, like we don't sit around here and go, oh, let's play something that was 200 years old now and put it on the radio. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't work that way, right?
Well, I mean, Brian, we already know what music's going to be like in 200 years. We've all seen Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Oh, that's true.
Still one of my favorite celebrity cameos ever is Jim Martin at the beginning of that movie. He's like, what a shithead. That is still one of my all-time favorites, man. Joe Gebhardt, he says, I've always thought Nirvana were a bit overrated for sure. Yeah, I won't argue with you, man. Like, the weird thing is, like, everyone says, oh, they changed it, and all these bands followed them. I'm like, there's not really another band that sounds like them. When you think of a grunge band, you've got Nirvana, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, like Alice in Chains, and I'm like, yeah, but Nirvana's the only one that sounds like this. So,
yeah,
whatever. So, moving on, what is the next album on your list? If you're in 1989 and you are not permitted to purchase When Dream and Day Unite for whatever reason.
I fell in love with this band the second I saw the video and heard the single for New Thing. Enough's Enough. I absolutely love their first album, man. I think it was a breath of fresh air. I mean, if people thought Nirvana was a breath of fresh air, I thought this was a breath of fresh air off of some of the hair stuff. Like, I mean, Beatles, Elvis Costello, Cheap Trick influence to a T, but I mean, harmonies for days on the vocals. I mean, every song on this album is like 4.5. I think 5 minutes is the longest. A lot of them are 3.5 minutes.
Okay.
I mean, For Now, Kiss the Clown, Fly High Michelle, I think is one of the criminally underrated, just beautiful lyric song, great song. Just super powerful. Like, but yeah, I mean, I always go back to this. I mean, if I got a long drive, like home from a gig, like, what am I going to put on? I don't know. It just always inevitably, I end up with this first Enough album, and I'm singing the whole dumb thing. I'm like hoarse by the time I get through it, but I killed like 50 minutes of my drive, and I'm in a great mood,
It's awesome having those records, isn't it? Where you just,
oh yeah,
you put it in, and like I got a couple Van Halen records like that. The Mammoth WVH records like that for me. Like, it's just something you can always come back to, and it just never ever stops being awesome. I've never listened to Enough's Enough. Fly High Michelle is like their only quote unquote hit, isn't it?
Yeah, well, there was a video for New Thing was before that.
Okay.
But I don't know if I'd call that a hit. It was probably played on the radio, maybe to the extent of something like Lay It Down, but not
okay,
not even quite that big, obviously. But
yeah.
But yeah, that was their first single. But yeah, Fly High Michelle is probably the only thing considered a quote hit, and just I mean, their story's been well documented. It's like the record companies didn't really know what to do with them. I mean, they were too damn good for their own good. I mean, they produced basically all their own stuff. They were totally self-contained. I mean, Chip and Donnie did basically everything. They didn't need if you heard interviews with them, Aiken knows those guys pretty well too. Like it's like, I think the one time they did bring in a producer, they're like, oh my God, what are we paying this guy for?
Right.
We know what we're supposed to sound like. And
yeah,
just, I don't know. I wish that they were bigger, but similar to like a Symphony X, I don't even think they can, sadly, if they were to tour here, I don't know if you get 200 people there,
Yeah, I saw them a couple of years ago, right before the pandemic, opening for Tom Kiefer out in Akron, and it sounded to me like there were a ton of tracks, and not the kind of tracks where it's like, here's some keys, here's some horns. It was, these guys aren't really singing this stuff. It was kind of Milli Vanilli-ish, but I honestly, the most that I know about Enough's Enough is that I've hung out with Chip Z'Nuff a couple times, and he is an absolute kook, and like he's one of the nicest guys you will ever meet. But dude, the way that guy portrays himself to everybody, that's not an act. Like that is who that guy is. And I will say what is really cool, he hooked me up with VIP passes for one of the Poison tours. It was them and I'm trying to remember who it was. It was them and Poison and two other bands at Blossom. And Chip got me and my girlfriend backstage passes. So that was really cool of him. He's a super nice guy, but that's really actually all I know about them. So moving on to, I have 3 more left. This next record was released on August 4th of 1989. And if I walked into a record store and I wanted When Dreaming Day Unite, and they said, can't have it, got to pick something else, I would pick Practice What You Preach by Testament. One of the absolute classic Testament records. I am a huge Testament fan. This record is just awesome. This record would be awesome if it was just for the song "Practice What You Preach," but I mean, this is, I think, when Testament really started coming into their element, I would say. I mean, it's obviously more commercial than what they're doing now, but I think the songwriting definitely started advancing around this time. I absolutely love this record, man. It is one of my favorites. I come back to it a lot. And I know that you are a big Testament fan, so what are your thoughts on this? Because did you buy this when it came out in 89? Were you a fan back that far?
I bought it probably a year or two later, actually. I didn't buy it right when it came out, but I was familiar with the one before. Was it No World Order or No Order?
New World Order?
Yeah, or whatever it was called. Yeah, that one. So it was funny because when you look up, they actually had 3 albums in 3 years because Souls of Black was 90. So they did like literally back to back to back. If you look it up online. But yeah, man, I mean, the time is coming. I mean, that's like,
yeah,
you hear that, like, I don't know. It's like, it sounds corny when I sing it, obviously, but Testament is one of those bands, you were talking about, like, no one else sounds like Nirvana. Like, no one else sounds like Chuck Berry. Like,
yeah,
it was just, and no one else can get those guitars intertwined the way they can. I mean, Exodus does a cool job of it too. There's a unique sound, but Testament, man, there's just something brutal about, and like you said, this was, I think, kind of the first sort of real serious major label. This was almost like maybe their, I don't know, Ride the Lightning or something, possibly to jumpstart everything, kind of, just this is when they were really going to take off. But yeah, I mean, Envy Life was awesome too. Greenhouse Effect, I remember that one, but The Time Is Coming, especially, and like you said, the title track, if they only put that out as one song,
yeah,
crushing and brutal band, and they never disappoint. I mean, they definitely have a formula, and and it's like you said, they don't ever really stray too far from that. They get a little bit heavier, a little bit darker. Chuck Billy gets a little bit fatter, but so do me and you. So who cares?
Dude, did I ever tell you like about the first time I ever saw Testament play?
I don't think so.
I was opening for them on the Low tour, and it was at Ron's Crossroads in Akron, so it was like a little bar, and those guys could barely fit on that stage. But we were loading in, and I was taking a piss, and this just like gorilla of a man comes next to me to take a piss, and out of my peripheral vision, I was like, who the fuck is this guy? And I happened to look up. I'm like, oh God, that's Chuck Billy. Holy fuck. And then I had this moment of going, okay, well, do I say hi to him while my dick is in my hand, or like, do I wait? Like, what do I do? So I waited, and I was like, hey man, what's going on? I was like, hey man, what are you doing? And I was like, taking a piss, loading. He's like, you playing tonight? I'm like, yep, we're opening for you. He's like, awesome, brother, awesome. You smoke? I'm like, nope. He's like, all right, well, see you later. So, and dude, when they got up there, Jesus Christ, I've never experienced anything that heavy in my life. I mean, they just come on and like they opened with low. So they did this intro, and all of a sudden, like that monstrous Testament sound in a club that holds maybe 200 people, you get, you're just like, what the holy shit? Look at this asshole. Phil Ooze. Welcome to the show, you piece of shit. He says, men's stories, typical John. Phil Ooze and I go way back on the Classic Metal Show, and Phil Ooze is absolutely one of the most legendary ball busters that I've ever met, and he loves to fuck with me. So, Phil, good to see you, brother. But, so I opened for Testament, so that's the first time I saw him, and it was a total blast. So,
Nice.
all right, so next on your list.
I have, and somebody brought this up. I don't know how far back we have to go to find the comments. Who was it that said Blue Murder self-titled?
Yeah, Be Cool or Be Podcast Out said Blue Murder self-titled killer supergroup.
Yeah, I don't know what your level of familiarity is with this album, but to me, it's almost like every song other than maybe one, it's almost like if you took Kashmir, which is like the greatest Zeppelin song ever, the heaviness, the plotting thunderousness of that with a soaring vocal. Blue Murder does that to you for like 46 minutes, basically.
Okay.
Like Blue Murder, the song Ptolemy. I love that. I love that song too. Like, I don't know, man. And they're only a 3-piece band, I believe. I don't even think they had, it was Carmine Appice, or is it Appice? I never know how you say that name. He's on drums.
Honestly, I think it's a PC.
Is it a PC? Okay, well,
I think. Yeah, I'm in your boat, dude. I don't know.
But yeah, John Sykes. I mean, just so damn underrated. A Valley of the Kings. That's another one. I love that song, The Valley of the Kings. I don't know, man. They're just these big sonic, like rock, borderline metal, almost like Viking type anthems. I mean,
right.
They're just real driving. I mean, they're very. They got a similar feel to stuff on Heaven and Hell, kind of a little bit of that feel, but it's 80s up a little bit, in terms of how the guitars sound and stuff. But yeah, I mean, just so underrated as a singer. I think John Sykes is. Like, I love his vocals on this. Of course, his guitar is great, but yeah, that album was. I don't know how many times I listened to it.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to be honest here, and maybe I'm blaspheming to a lot of people. You didn't really sell me with the Kashmir reference, because I don't think that's the greatest Zeppelin tune. It's not that I dislike it. I'm like, okay, it's cool. But if I'm going for greatest Zeppelin song, it's not going to be one I'm picking. But I do love Led Zeppelin, so there's that. I have zero knowledge of anything about this record, so I definitely would have to go check it out. I would be completely new to it. So, yeah, John Sykes, I'm new to. All of this would be a complete fresh listen for me.
Yeah, so, you got to check this one out, man.
Okay, I will do that. I will check that one out if you check out the second to last album on my list, which was released on September 1st of 1989, and it reached the top of the Billboard chart. It is, of course, Motley Crue, Dr. Feelgood. And I actually prefer Girls, Girls, Girls. If I'm listening to a Motley record, I'm a big Girls, Girls, Girls fan, and obviously Shout at the Devil. But, Dr. Feelgood at the time, I absolutely loved it. But I think as time has gone on, because it's so overplayed, it's one of those records that I kind of am like, because it's become so overplayed. And also, they're a little tarnished for me, because whenever I find out, I've said this on the show before, whenever I find out a musician is a dick, like, it kind of like, it just doesn't, it takes something away from the experience for me. and knowing that Nikki's such a jerk and Vince is such a jerk, and now especially Vince just like ballooning up like crazy and not being able to sing worth a damn, it just kind of ruins it. But at least back then, I loved it, and the one thing you can never ever deny about this album is the production. This just sounds fucking enormous. So, and granted, it's all these songs are overplayed, but they're overplayed for a reason. And that opening riff to the song "Dr. Feelgood" is one of the heaviest damn things you'll ever hear from a non-metal band. That probably sold a million records right there. I know it did it for me. I was like, oh, cool, there's a new Motley Crue record coming out. I hope it's good. And then the video comes on for Dr. Feelgood. I'm like, yeah, I'm buying that. I'm buying it just to listen to that riff over and over and over and over and over again. So I know that you were into this type of stuff back then. So what are your thoughts on Dr. Feelgood?
Yeah, this album, the highs are super high, the lows are really, really low. I mean, without you, horrible song. Don't Go Away, Mad. I always thought it was an awful song.
Wait a minute, really?
I wish this song would just go away,
You don't like that song?
No, I hate that song. Time for Change is terrible. I mean, but like you said, you start out with that Terror in Tinseltown, like that freaky beginning, and almost kind of like sort of how Wildside starts crazy, and you go into that dung. I mean, it's so heavy. You're like, wow, Motley Crue got even heavier, And I will agree with you. I think Girls. I think that's my probably favorite album of theirs. I don't think there's a skipper on that one. That one and probably Shout. I don't think there's any skippers on this one, man. Probably the first four are fine. Dr. Feelgood, Slice Your Pie is all right. Rattlesnake Shake is okay. Kickstart My Heart, obviously, that riff is just ingrained. It's overplayed, but that's so classic. But yeah, great production. But man, some of those, I don't know. Without You and the way that slide guitar, I don't know. It's so whiny, and it's just whiny and like, I don't know. There's not enough there for a song for me on that one.
Do you hate slide guitar as much as I hate slide guitar?
No, it depends on how it's done. I mean, when you're doing it like in a slow bluesy style, I think it's okay. But when you're just sort of just slapping it on here and something stupid like this, like I don't know.
I'll tolerate it if Slash is doing it. Otherwise, get it the hell away from me. I can't stand that sound. I cannot stand that sound. The only time I like it is on the Slash tune, Beggars and Hangers On. Other than that, like, no, just stop that. Look at it. Phil Ooze, man. I was not familiar with this. I'll have to go check this out. He says, the riff for Dr. Feelgood is a ripoff of Killing Joke's Love Like Blood. I have never heard a Killing Joke song, I don't think, except for when Metallica covered them. So I will have to go check that out. So Be Cool or Be Podcast out. He says Soundgarden Louder Than Love was released in 1989. Great album as well. Mentioning anything about Soundgarden being good is a way to get instantly banned from the chat on this show, just so we're clear on that.
Yeah, there's some good songs on there. Come on.
You can get banned from the show as well, my friend. I don't care if you're the co-host. Phil Ooze says Sabotage, Gutter Ballet. That was close for me too. Sabotage is kind of cool, so I'm wondering what your number one's going to be, but yeah, Sabotage is a good one. I will say I actually agree with you on the skippable songs. You know what's a skippable song for me and always was Kickstart My Heart. Something about that never really grabbed me. And I have to say, Same Old Situation, first of all, is a kick-ass killer rock song. But I really thought that when you were talking about bad songs, you were going to go with the low-hanging fruit of She Goes Down. Everyone always mentions that song.
So, a quick story on that. You're going to laugh at this. Well, maybe you won't.
Keep it clean.
Okay. One of my first jobs after I decided to quit school, which this was after I decided to quit college the first time. Now, I
like where this is going.
I only quit college once. Anyway, I quit and I joined like a lounge band playing in hotels and stuff. And then I was just playing in regular bands and I had horrible jobs. One of my jobs was I was basically like a bus driver for like a daycare center, like just pick up the kids and take them, in the morning and stuff. And the ones that went half day had to take them back and go get them after school, stuff like that.
Okay.
So we had like a talent show where they were doing like lip syncing. So of course, everybody. This was a time when I believe MC Hammer was out, so everybody was going to be like, can't touch this or whatever. So this kid's like, oh, I want to do. This kid's like 8 years old. I want to do Motley Crue. I'm like, so, well, what song? She goes down, and I'm like, I say, do you know what this song is about? He's like, yeah, like, I don't know. It's just one of the funniest, stupidest conversations ever. And I'm like, well, just let him go. What he doesn't know and what no one else will know isn't going to hurt him. No one else is going to be able to understand what he's thinking anyway.
Well, dude, I actually have a kind of ridiculous story about this record as well. I, playing in the band, we were doing a wedding a couple of years ago, and for the daddy-daughter dance, they had a custom song that they made. And it started out with your typical daddy-daughter dance thing, and then about halfway through, you hear the record scratch, and it goes into Same Old Situation. And when they sent me this track, I was like, they're like, oh, you're going to love it. It's so funny. We're so creative. I was like, okay, that's cool. It's something different. And when I heard what they were playing, I was like, oh my God, they don't know that this song is about lesbians. Like they and I really used to love her. Then the kitty she discovered, it's got to be a sexual thing. Like, I'm like, are you even listening to this? I mean, and I sent it to the guys in the band. I was like, you aren't even going to believe this. And they were like, okay, like what the hell? And my drummer he's not into this type of music. So he's like, why is this bad? And I told him what the song's about. He's like, you got to be kidding me. So sure as hell, dude, we get to this wedding, and here comes the daddy-daughter dance, and it took every ounce of my self-control to not just fall on the ground screaming, laughing. Like the other guys left because they were laughing their asses off. So they get to go outside, but I'm running the show. Like I'm DJing and running the volumes and everything. I had to sit there and just watch her and her dad dancing to this song, and I'm going, oh, my God, they have no clue what this is about. It was phenomenal.
Where was this, West Virginia or something?
Oh, God. One of those podunk towns down where we play, man. But, that. We still talk about that. Like, holy shit. Anytime we hear Same Old Situation, we just laugh. So, all right. So, what is I have one left on my list. You've got what, 2?
I have 2, but we have Be Cool or Be Podcast Out has 2 of my runners-upses.
Okay.
The
so
Cult,
he's got
Sonic Temple. Yeah.
He also has
Black Sabbath Headless Cross, which is actually my background here.
Yeah. All right. So those are your runners up or runner ups.
I don't know if I'm allowed to announce this because it's technically not technical, but I was given permission by Dan from Discography Discussion that I may be on there to discuss the Tony Martin Sabbath era.
Really? All right.
Yeah, he has to run it by Joe, I guess. Hopefully Joe gives it the okay, but yeah, he said definitely. So I have no idea when or anything, but shout out to those guys at Discography Discussion. If we can make that happen, that would be awesome.
Hey, they owe you. Joe was just on my Star Wars nerd podcast last night, so I let Joe on. Now Dan has to let you on. So
yeah.
We'll do a co-host trade.
Well, yeah, I mean, great tunes on like the Cult, Sun King, of course, Fire Woman. I mean, there probably wouldn't even be like 9 other Cult albums after that if it wasn't for Fire Woman.
Right.
I mean, the Cult is they can basically take the same 3 chords, turn them around, and make a song out of it almost every time. But it's still like almost always kind of cool. Like, I don't know, just
yeah.
I've got to see. I think I saw them. I'm trying to think it was once or twice live, and like what you want is the Cult opening for about 40 minutes. That's perfect. Like you don't need any more than that. You get your big hits out of the way, and you get some great guitar, stuff from Billy Duffy, and but then Headless Cross too. I mean, the title track, like Killing the Spirit World, some great songs on there.
Okay. I'm not a Cult fan, but I'm going to take your word for it. So. And we got a couple other ones like Be Cool or Be Podcast Out. This is Fate's Warning, Perfect Symmetry. Phil Ooze is saying White Snake, Slip of the Tongue, and the First Phantom Blue. Here's an interesting one. I got to go back and listen to this because Dream Theater brings up this band all the time. We've talked about it. Be Cool or Be Podcast Out says Marillion Season's End. I really want to hear what that band is about because I like the the cover, or it's not a cover I suppose, but on the what the hell is it called? The Dream Theater live DVD from Once in a Lifetime. but they have some of the footage from the Ronnie Scott's gig, and the guy from Marillion gets up there and they play one of the songs, and it's kind of interesting. So,
Well, I can tell you what you're going to think of it. Trust me.
okay. All right. Well, now I really want to know.
Now, the first Phantom Blue, that was one of those Mike Varney bands, wasn't it?
I've never heard of Phantom Blue, so
Yeah, I'm almost positive it was one of those Mike Varney. I think it was like a dual guitar band, and I can't remember who was in that. If it was someone famous, I'm imagining. But
okay.
All right, so my number 2. I don't think you would know that I'd have this on here.
Okay.
My all-time favorite lead singer voice is John Waite. So I have the self-titled Bad English.
Wow. I did not know that at all. John Waite is your all-time favorite singer.
Yeah, just in terms of just the voice, I just love his actual tone. Like just
Okay.
tone, like just anything he sings. Yeah. I mean, this is just a clinic in how to write for that time period, accessible pop rock. It's basically Journey. It's kind of a little bit heavier version of Journey on half of the album, with John Waite on vocals. Is really what it is, because you've got Jonathan Cain, you've got Neil Schon. It's even got Dean Castronova, who would go on to be, Journey. Well, he's in Journey. No, he's not. Yeah, he is. No, he's not. Yeah, he is. No, he's not. No, well, now he's doing this. Now he's doing that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Every song on this album, I don't know if you ever got into Bad English at all. Like when when I See You Smile, it's like, I mean, that's just blah. That's nothing. They didn't even write. That's one of those Diane Warren like co-written songs.
Okay.
But like Best of What I Got like is in there. I mean, Heaven's a 4-letter word. I mean, just great rockin' tunes. Neil Schon just plays, just does his Journey stuff in there. Great melodic, guitar playing, and front to back, every song on there.
Yeah, that's another band I've never dug into, so I can't say that I would like it or not like it. So again, I'll have to check, especially like as soon as you say, When I See You Smile, like, yeah, that is kind of, I was like, okay, that's like top 40 shit to me, which I usually don't get into. But if you're saying that's kind of like an anomaly, then I'll definitely check that out. Again, like, this is cool, man, to get into, because there's so many things that I've not been exposed to. And I'm kind of famous among my circle of friends, as you well know, as being a little bit narrow-minded with what I listen to. And
minus a little bit.
Like, I don't mean to be. It's just like my brain will just listen to something, go, well, this sounds like generic insert band I like, and then I turn off to it. It sucks. It sucks.
All right, Phil Ooze with one good comment and one I'm not going to bother reading.
No, we'll bring it up. All right, well, let's do this one first, since Phil.
Okay,
I'll let Phil bust me a couple times. He says, had the Village People released something in '89, John would have it on his list. Fuck you, Phil. I love it, man. But yeah, so he also says, Vain, No Respect. I'm not familiar with it.
I don't know how I missed this, because remember I put this on my backdrop when we were talking to.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you did.
Who were we talking to? I found out someone had produced. I don't even remember what the correlation was, but yeah, I don't know how I missed that this was that year. I love this Vain album front to back, man. It just 3.5 minute, just blistering. I don't know, punk hard rock, I guess you will. It's almost what you call it.
Yeah,
just dirty, grungy rock.
Awesome. All right, well, the last one on my list, again, these are in chronological order, but this might be the best one. So this album was released on December 11th of 1989, and it definitely makes for a phenomenal Christmas present, because who wouldn't love getting the gift of Monty Python with Monty Python Sings? I love Monty Python.
Nice.
When I saw that Monty Python had released this record, then I was like, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing. So, I mean, call it goofy, whatever. But after a year of kick-ass records and all kinds of music, like, let's just have some fun. So, I mean, all the stuff that's on here, dude, Always Look on the Bright Side of Life, Sit on My Face, Lumberjack Song. I mean, Every Sperm is Sacred. I mean, it's a greatest hits record. So, Never Be Rude to an Arab. I mean, it's got everything Knights of the Round Table. I mean, dude, the Spam song. It's just everything. Everything is on here. If you thought Monty Python was funny, you are going to love Monty Python Sings. And I know that this might be kind of a goofy selection, but dude, I'm a huge Monty Python fan, so I was like, oh, that's making the list. And it made it over stuff like the Tesla record and Warrant, Dirty, Rotten, Filthy, Stinking Rich. So that tells you what I think of Warrant. Like, I'd rather listen to Monty Python than Warrant. Warrant is a band I just never. They're good, but I've never understood why they're so revered, and specifically the song Rainmaker that everyone just says is absolutely godlike. And I'm like, I've listened to it, like, why? I don't understand it. Like, I really feel like I'm missing something. So I don't get it. But yeah, so Monty Python Sings, that's the next one on my list. I don't think I need to ask about it because I don't even know if you give a shit about Monty Python, but
I feel better. Better get a bucket.
yeah. So good, man. I think I could still quote like 98% of Holy Grail all the way through with laser accuracy. I watched that damn movie so many times.
Yeah, I remember the show coming on at like 11 o'clock or whatever in St. Louis on Saturday nights, and you're just like watching this, and you're like, "What in the world is this?" Like,
yeah,
some stuff was funny, and then some stuff was like, I have no idea.
Oh yeah,
like, this is like too British for me or something. I guess
it's exactly what it is. It's so damn British, but the stuff that worked amazing, and the stuff that didn't, you're like, "Oh God, what is that?" But I mean, things like Life of Brian when he's talking about wanting to have a baby, he's like, where's the fetus going to gestate, in a box? Lines like that. Like, when they're listening to Jesus speak and they can't quite hear him, and he's like, "Blessed is the meek." It's like, what'd he say? He's like, "I think he said, blessed are the cheesemakers." Like, what's so special about the cheesemakers? I was just talking about any, in general, any makers of dairy products. Like, that kind of humor is just phenomenal. So, Phil Lewis is on the same page. He says Python rules. Like, he likes to make fun of me, Phil Lewis, but we are on the same page on a few things. So
yeah, well, that better get a bucket line. Like when the guy keeps eating, the waiter like gives him something else. He does that dive over the hedges. Yeah. Like, just I don't know. There's just something about the look that dude has right before he's diving to get the hell out of the dude, like completely implodes.
Yeah, with Monsieur like an after dinner mint. Fuck off! I'm full. I couldn't eat another bite. And the guy just explodes. It's so vile. Oh my Lord! All right, so before we get to your last one. Kamikaze Crush, haven't seen you before, man. Thanks for tuning in. He says, has Tesla, the Great Radio Controversy, been mentioned? Lizzie Borden, Master of Disguise, and Loudness, Soldier of Fortune are great ones. Brian actually had Great Radio Controversy on his list. Lizzie Borden and Loudness have not been mentioned. So good suggestions there. I'm not familiar with those records, but are you familiar with either of those?
Yeah, Loudness. I love the first Thunder in the East. I love that one. Soldier of Fortune. I had a couple good ones on it, I guess. I'm trying to think I think that might be the third one. Lightning Strikes had a couple, but they were. It's hard. Like, if you got two like really good songs on a Loudness album, like after the first one, I think that was like about all you were going to get. That was one of those voices too that it's kind of would start to grate on you a little bit, Like a guy that has like very little command of the English language and what he does hand, it's like he's either going to rock you or he's going to bang you, or you got to watch out for that 9 to 5 and don't let the man get you down. Like,
isn't that the Japanese band?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Phil Ooze, correct me if I'm wrong, but the very, very long-standing classic metal show joke about hand job, isn't that from a Loudness song? And while you're at it, Phil Ooze is saying, surprised you didn't mention Nirvana's Bleach. Am I banned? Phil Ooze, you must not have tuned in at that point, because I have mentioned Bleach. That actually did make my list. So,
by the way, I looked up Phantom Blue. I do remember this now. It's a chick band.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe I can't say that word, but it's all. Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, are we allowed to be that misogynist?
Yeah,
it's a chick band.
Yeah. Well, all female band. I don't know. It was, but I think they were more like going for like the twin guitar, as opposed to like something like Vixen. I don't know. We'll have to go That's our homework, John. Let's go dig up all we can on Phantom Blue.
Nice. Phil Ooze says yes, it is. From Loudness is Hang Tough. Okay, so that's where the hand job joke on the Classic Metal Show comes from. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
I got to real quick before we get that. I did get to see
Okay.
Loudness open for Crue on Theater of Pain, and it was like, we're going to rock you. You know. I mean, but they did. They rocked me. So yeah, we're going all the way to my.
He was not lying. I did get rocked.
Yeah. So we'll go
All right.
all the way to my number one, which was mentioned a long time ago. And yes, John knew that this was going to be in there. King's X Masterpiece, Gretchen Goes to Nebraska.
What did you just say? Master Peach?
Yes, it's King's X. I tell you, those boys are doing somewhere.
What the hell was that?
I don't know. King's, yeah, well, if you try to say an X and then S pretty quick, I think that's what it was. So, yeah, I mean, this is just an incredible opus epic of an album. I mean, there's 3-part harmonies on every song. It's tight as can be. No one has ever pulled off this guitar tone before. It's one of those deals where like he would literally Ty Tabor would like hide, like mask over like all of his like pedals and his amps and everything because he didn't want anyone to see how he was getting this guitar sound.
He pulled the Eddie Van Halen of turning backwards.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
He did not want anyone copying it, and to this day, I mean, you know right away if Ty Tabor, if it's one of his solo songs or if it's King's X song, because that guitar just will buzz your head right over. I mean, I don't know. I love the idea too of 2 lead singers, like, you know, Doug Pinnick, you know, has the gospel-y, you know, rasp and stuff, and it just, you know, just so soulful and like just a real beautiful desperation to like his, you know, he's almost like in pain a lot of times when he's singing. I don't know, there's just something moving and emotional about it. And then you get like kind of the more John Lennon-y kind of a tone from Ty Tabor. You know, he takes over and sings lead on, I don't know, 3 or 4 of the songs, and it's just it's a nice balance, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this is a band. The most that I'm familiar with is Doug Pinnick's guest spot on, you know, the Falling Into Infinity record. So I've never really listened to a lot of King's X, so I'll definitely have to check it out. But obviously, you know, for people that are into prog, this is their, you know, magnum opus, if you want to use that term. And so I'm very familiar with at least, you know, the existence of this record, but I have never listened to it. So definitely one that I will go check out. Again, it's kind of cool that you bring up some of these albums, especially this one, because there was a lot of stuff on here I wondered if you would have, and a lot of stuff that I wondered if we would kind of cross over together, because, I mean, granted, you listen to a lot more stuff than I do. Again, I'm completely narrow-minded, you know, unwillingly, but it's just how I am. And but we do have a lot of similarities in the kind of stuff that we kind of get into. And I think especially in terms of, you know, vocalists, we kind of tend to like the same style of vocalist, and we do like some of the same kind of progressive elements in a band. And I think King's X, from the stuff I've heard, is kind of something I'd be into, and I know that you really enjoy them. So this is going to be definitely a record that I got to go check out. Is this like the high watermark for them? Is it like a severe drop off for them with the rest of the catalog, or?
I wouldn't say a severe drop off. I'd say the first 3 are really solid. Then they kind of start to, you know, sort of change. And then kind of like we said before, everything kind of comes back. It's okay. Phil Ooze just made a great point. Ear Candy is my favorite King's X album. So like the first 3 are amazing. Then you got to come back to 1995-ish or so, or 96 for Ear Candy. And that is a really, really solid. I think you would dig that album. The one before that, I don't think you would like. It's real grungy. They brought in Brendan O'Brien, you know, you know, they did one of those albums, and I think that was a mistake. But Ear Candy, you probably would like most of the stuff on that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just I don't know, man. I put them on the category of like another Enough's Enough, you know, like they should have been. There's a great story. I mean, they can probably, I don't know how much he knows these guys or can tell you about them, but like their manager literally stole like almost $400,000 from these guys. Like, I mean, yeah, because they were actually making decent money on the first couple albums. You know, it wasn't like they were selling 2 million units or anything, but And then all of a sudden they're like, well, how come we're, making all these videos and we're selling decent amount of albums and tickets, and how come we don't have any money? Yeah. So this guy, his name was Sam something. They used to always go like, oh, he's the fourth member of the band and he was like family and this and that. Yeah. This guy basically just robbed them blind. Every dollar. I mean, it just sucks. It's sad. Like,
yeah,
but, so
right,
yeah,
well.
King's X, that had to be my number one. I did notice, so we had another good one on there, Voivod Nothing Face.
I am not a Voivod fan, man. Yeah, Be Cooler, Be Podcast Out says Voivod Nothing Face. We'll do a quick speed round here, but I am not a Voivod fan. I can't get into that band.
They sound, all of their albums are really, really different. I don't know. I never know what they're trying to do. Like they had an album called Negatron that was almost like the first couple of ones were like, sounded almost like Exodus or something, like thrash metal. And then you're like, wait, this is Voivod? And then, so Steve Vai, Passion and Warfare. What are your thoughts on Steve Vai?
He's a great player, but I've listened to some of his stuff, and I feel like he overplays a lot. So I don't really get into that. Like I like guys that can overplay, but they don't. Like, I mean, it is a Dream Theater podcast, so obviously Petrucci's like that. Marcos Fogli is a perfect example. That guy can just absolutely rip, but he doesn't. So I like when it's used as a trick, and I probably haven't listened to enough Steve Vai to kind of say he doesn't always do that. But the stuff I've heard, it's just like, dude, calm down, bro. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, he's kind of, I think he even played with Zappa. He has that Zappa stuff going on, which, I mean, a musical genius, but, after a while, like your ears kind of like, okay, like,
yeah.
Like, so there's only one album. Let's see, there's two albums I had on my runners ups that didn't make it on here. One of them was, actually there's three. So Overkill, Years of Decay. I know you absolutely love that band.
I am indifferent. I kind of overrated for me, but
yeah, I think they're a tad overrated. That's kind of considered their biggest album. This was actually my number 9. It almost made my top 8. I'll give quick mention of this one. TNT Intuition. Love that album. Love Tony Harnell. The first 3 TNT albums I think are absolutely amazing. After that, it's pretty bad.
Okay. Phil Ooze brings up a band that I could have sworn you were going to mention, and you totally missed an opportunity to bust out my favorite piece of clothing I've ever seen any of my friends wear, the infamous Brian Hendrickson Dangerous Toys hat. And Phil Ooze brings up the Dangerous Toys record from 1989. I was waiting for it, even just as a joke.
Oh, man.
Because of that goddamn hat.
I should have. Yeah, that's one of those bands I wish I liked more. I don't know. Jason McMaster is just it's one of those voices. Like Scared is a pretty good song. Was it Teasing and Pleasing? The first couple singles, but
yeah,
that Hellacious Acres or whatever. That's, I don't know, that the stuff since then, that's pretty rough if you ask me.
Yeah. So I got one more I want to mention to you, and then we can get out of here. What's your opinion on Joe Cetriani flying in a blue dream? I haven't listened to a lot of Cetriani, but I do enjoy his stuff. This is one of the records I've listened to most of, and I dig it. I would say this was kind of close to making my list. Do you get into Cetriani at all?
I do. I love the title track on this. The way that starts, do 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 do. That's such a cool riff.
Yeah.
Loses a few points when decides, hey, I'm gonna sing on a few songs.
yeah, I'll give you that.
Just like, and I don't even think he does that anymore when he plays live. It's like, dude, you got too many great instrumentals to be, I have the same thoughts as like when Alter Bridge, the last couple albums, hey, let's have Tremonti sing a song. No, that's why you have Miles Kennedy. And actually, I like Tremonti's voice. I like Tremonti's voice. There's nothing wrong with that. I like his solo albums, but Mark, you don't need to sing on an Alter Bridge album. That's why we have Miles.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Like, if you're gonna sing opposite your lead singer, don't make it when you're make it opposite a singer like Miles Kennedy.
Yeah,
that's just not a good idea. Yeah. So, well, man, this was fun, dude. I mean, we can do all these, different years and stuff like that. Like we got 92 and 94, 97, all this kind of stuff. And again, getting up to, oh my God. I keep picturing what's going to happen when we have to do like 2021. Like here's the 3 records we'd buy.
Here's the 2 that we've even heard of.
Yeah, I know. It's
Well,
I tried looking up some later years when you came up with this concept, and I was like, oh boy, this is going to get rough. Like,
yeah, we'll have to cut it down to probably like 5 or something for the newer ones, just for your sake.
Or combine years or something. But yeah, this was fun, man. This is a good idea. It was a cool little off show. Next time, obviously, in 2 weeks, we are going to get back to some Dream Theater. So it will be Thursday, June 2nd at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we're going to do that. After that, the schedule is going to get a little crazy because 2 weeks after that, I will actually be at Sammy Hagar in the Circle at Blossom Music Center, second row center. I spent a shitload of money to splurge to get some kick-ass tickets to that show. So we might have to move the show date up a day to a Wednesday. And then, of course, we do have our very special off episode. I guess you could call it an off episode. It's basically going to be a bonus episode, but it's going to be on Saturday, June 25th, almost said January, Saturday, June 25th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is going to be a very kick-ass episode, and we can't announce exactly what it's going to be just yet. We got a few weeks before we actually get confirmation on that, but once we can confirm it, we're going to spray it all over social media. There you go, Phil. I set you up for a joke there. But yeah, we're going to put it all over social media and stuff like that once we can confirm exactly what we are doing. But we are doing a show on Saturday, June 25th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time that you guys are not going to want to miss. And don't forget, for all you Dream Theater fans out there, James LaBrie's amazing new solo record, A Beautiful Shade of Grey, comes out tomorrow, Friday, May 20th. So make sure to go buy your copy. I've got my vinyl copy coming in the mail probably tomorrow or the next day. So, Brian, this was awesome, man. Much appreciated for a very cool concept. And I guess I will see you in 2 weeks as we get back into Dream Theater world.
Sounds awesome, man. Thanks, buddy.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody in the chat. Phil Ooze, it was great to see you again, man. Be cool or be podcast out. Good to see you, man. Kamikaze Crush, thanks for hanging out. Obviously, our good friends, Kale McLeish, Adam Rishog, Robert Reams, Joe Gebhardt. Thank you guys very much for hanging out. So for my co-host, Brian, I am John. Until next time, see you guys, and Carpe Diem.